what's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here, and today we're talking surrogacy. I'm gonna kind of just jump right into this because I do have a lot of questions and I want to make sure that I answer them all in a way that kind of satisfies you guys or gives you as much information as possible while also trying to keep things brief. So let's just get right into it. First and foremost, I would like to point out the fact that I am not a medical professional. I am not very well versed on the topic. I'm going to be speaking and answering these questions from my personal experience, based on things I've learned so far from different surrogacy groups or from my intended parents or from just research on my own. Or I mean, some of these things I can just answer for myself even without doing this. But yeah, I am by no means a professional in any of this, so please take this information with a grain of salt and just know that it is just my personal information. The first question is, what is surrogacy? Now, surrogacy is basically, in short terms, someone who carries a baby for someone who is unable / cannot carry one. The second question kind of ties into the first one, and that is, what is a traditional surrogate versus a gestational one? And simplified, I mean, I'm a gestational surrogate, which basically just means I am not related to the baby whatsoever. I'm not using my own eggs to create this baby. I am just a babysitter for 9 months, if you will. And a traditional surrogate is where you would use your own eggs, so you would be related to the baby. The next question is, why did I want to be a surrogate? And this is a very big question, and I'm going to try and keep my answer as short as possible. Basically, I don't know, I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I know people who struggle with infertility. I also know people who have been surrogates themselves, and it's always kind of amazed me what the human body can do and just what science can do. So I knew it was something that I would want to do if I had a good pregnancy, because some people don't like pregnancy at all. And if you don't like pregnancy, you're obviously not going to want to do it for somebody else, you know? So I had to wait until I had a kid of my own, which is one of the requirements anyway, is that you have to have had a kid and be raising that kid. So waited until I had Elizabeth. Once I had her, I was like, hell yeah, I love being pregnant. It was the best time of my life. And I'm like, if I have the ability to be able to do this for somebody else, why wouldn't I? The next question is, what are the requirements? Now this definitely varies. I mean, there is a general baseline of requirements that most people should have in mind or try to reach, but some of these requirements, depending on which hospital or which clinic you go to and whether you're doing an agency versus independent, it can definitely vary. So I will be putting the picture of the requirements right here. There's a little graph that most people tend to show if you want to know what the requirements are. The first requirement that I'm fairly certain that you cannot budge on whatsoever is that you have to be between the ages of 21 and 42. The next requirement is that you have to have at least carried one child to term and without complications. And I should add that most of them also require that you have been raising said child. I'm not really sure why the requirement of raising that child is, and even when it comes to no complications, that kind of varies. You know, some people would consider needing forceps a complication, but I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. But I think they more so mean things like gestational diabetes and preeclampsia or preterm labor, you know, big issues. Those things would probably make it more difficult. I don't know if it would necessarily deter you completely from being a surrogate, but it would definitely make it more difficult, especially if you're going through an agency. The next requirement is you should have no more than 3 deliveries via C-section. I feel in the groups I'm seeing that some people have had 4 C-sections and they're still being a surrogate. So I don't know if this is exactly something that you can budge on. I've never had a C-section, so this wasn't really anything that I even thought twice about, but definitely something to keep in mind. The next requirement is that you should have a BMI of no more than 32. This is definitely something that you can kind of have some leeway with, whether you're going through an agency or as an independent. Before I decided to go independently, I was looking up some agencies, and for the most part, yeah, the cutoff was 32, and you can't really go around that. But there were some agencies that were working with people who had a BMI of 33. And if you're going independently, that also varies a lot because the requirements are more so set on clinics, and some clinics are a lot more understanding and willing to work with people who have a higher BMI as long as they have always been this way and are like otherwise very healthy. What I mean by that is one of the things that I believe she's the RE that we're working with, that one of the things that she mentioned was basically just wondering if I was this weight before I had Elizabeth and when I had Elizabeth. And I've always had a BMI of 35. That's just something I've lived with. I'm pretty short and thick, for lack of a better term. So my BMI has always been on the high side. Even though I don't look extremely obese, that's what the BMI says. And BMIs are bullshit anyway, but bear with me. So basically she said as long as I lost some weight and was trying to get myself healthy, then she'll 100% work with me. But it wasn't that she wanted me to necessarily get to a 32 BMI. She just wanted me to be actively working towards getting lower. The next requirement is that you do not smoke, abuse alcohol, prescription pills, or use illicit drugs. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can't do drugs, kids, if you want to be a surrogate. The next requirement is that you should not be on any sort of government assistance, and this means like welfare, food stamps, subsidized housing, like things like that. For a while, I didn't really understand why. I thought it was just kind of trying to like weed out the people who were doing it just for the money, but it seems like it's a lot, like it's a little bit more complicated than that. But basically, it's just so that like if you're on those types of assistances and you're using them because you genuinely need those to survive, then getting the money from being a surrogate would disqualify you from getting those. The next requirement is that you should have a stable home life and childcare and emotional support system. Now, this was one of the like very important things for anybody going through this, is you want to make sure you have support. They want to make sure that you're living in a home that you feel safe, to make sure that obviously the baby wouldn't be harmed and that you are in a place physically and mentally where you are okay to handle this. They want to make sure that if you have a partner, that they are extremely supportive of this, because they're going to have to help you a lot along the way. I mean, Nick, for example, he's going to be helping me, taking me to and from some appointments, and he's going to be helping me with my medications and stuff. So, you know, he's going to be there a lot. And that kind of ties into why you would need also a childcare support system, is because like you're gonna have a lot of appointments, you're gonna have a lot of times where you won't necessarily be able to be home. Like, what if you have to be on restricted bed rest, or what if you go into labor in the middle of the night? Like, you know, there's just a lot of instances that are like what ifs, and you're gonna need to make sure that you have the support to be able to handle those situations. And the last requirement is that you have no medical conditions that require like a medication in the past 6 months. I feel like this can be for two reasons. One is that they want to make sure that you're emotionally stable to do this, because it is, once again, it's not a small thing you're doing. Like, you're literally like renting your body and almost your sanity. I mean, with all the hormones and stuff, you know, so it's a very big deal, and they want to make sure that you're fully capable and understanding of what you're really taking on. And also on the same note is that you can't be taking those types of, like, you can't take like antidepressants and like anxiety meds or anything like that like while you're pregnant. So they need to make sure that you're able to be yourself and function and be mentally stable without needing those types of medications. I feel like I went way too long into the requirements, but they're important. The requirements are very, very, very important. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is something that honestly I didn't even really think about, is basically just, do the parents have to meet any requirements? Now, if I were going through an agency, I would assume that they would be doing like a background check and like a financial check or whatever to make sure that they can afford and that they're ready to be doing this sort of thing. But I'm going independent, and to my knowledge, that they didn't have to do any sort of like background checks or anything like that. They did do like medical screenings as well when they were creating the embryos, but I think that's kind of about it. As long as they have the embryos, then they're ready to go. And the next question is agency versus indie, meaning independent. Me personally, I mean, this is obviously my first journey and I'm going independent, but if I were to continue and do this journey with another family, I would probably still do independent as well, only because though agencies are a little bit less complicated in the sense that they pretty much handle everything for you. Now, for example, when me and my parent, or the intended parents, decided to start this journey, me and her, the mother, were mostly doing most of the communicating. We're the ones setting up all the appointments. We're the ones calling the lawyers and the doctors and the health insurance people and life insurance. Like, or she's doing most of the work. I've only had to call a couple like doctors to make an appointment. But if you were going through an agency, we wouldn't be doing any of that. They would just call us, and I assume they would just be like, hey, does this day work for you? Cool, okay, you have an appointment, type of thing. And everything would already be handled. The contracts would be signed up for you guys already. I mean, like, you would still be going through the same process. It just wouldn't be handled by you. So doing it independently, you're just kind of doing more of the legwork, which I don't mind. I'm not doing anything anyway. Another reason why I want to go independent is just because I wanted more of a personal relationship with the parents. I didn't want it to just be like a business transaction. I wanted to be able to have them message me even about unrelated things to the surrogacy. Like, I just wanted them to feel as comfortable with me as I am going to be comfortable with them. I mean, it's going to be a long road with them, and I want to make sure that I'm basically like friends with them. Like, and I already do. Like, it's weird to say that, like, it feels more normal now to say that I'm doing it for a friend than to say that I'm doing it for someone I met. Like, I don't know. I definitely see the mother as more of a friend to me now. The next question is, what is the process? And this can definitely be like a 10-minute long video in and of itself, but I'm just gonna brief it down as much as I can for you guys. And this is, again, speaking from an independent standpoint. So you meet the people, you go through a screening, you start the injections, you do the transfer. If it latches correctly, then you carry the baby to term and you give it back to their parents. That's basically the simple way of putting it, but there's a lot of steps in between that. The next question is, how much do surrogates make? Now, I'm personally not going to speak about how much I'm making. I haven't even signed the contracts yet, so nothing is final just yet. We can still, raise or lower the compensation or whatever. But I will say that there is quite a range, and it depends from agencies or independent or from state to state. Like, there are so many different factors on just the base pay alone. Now, for base pay, I think it ranges from like 25 to 50,000. I believe some people can go lower and some people can go higher, but that's generally about what it is. But then there's also like other things that you get compensated for as well. Like, you get compensated for travel, like gas and whatever. You get compensated for if you have to pay out of pocket for any appointments, which you shouldn't have to. But if something happens and you have to pay out of pocket for something, then they will reimburse you for that. You get compensated once there's a heartbeat confirmation. You get compensated for the medications. You get compensated for, I don't know, like if things go wrong, like if you have to be on bed rest, they give you, I believe it's like house care, or like somebody to take care of your house. They give you childcare. There are just so many things that you can be compensated for. So there's definitely not even one answer for this anyway. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. The next question is, what happens once the baby is born? And for simple terms, it goes back to its parents. I mean, it's not mine, it's not Nick's, so it just goes back to its parents. But a lot of people were asking a question that kind of related to this, and that was, will I have a relationship with the baby afterwards? Or like, will the baby know about me afterwards? And this is all 100% up to its parents. I am not entitled to anything. I am not entitled to being a part of the baby's life at all. Of course, I would love to, because like I said, I do consider the parents to be like friends of mine, and I would want to see their baby just as much as I would want to see if my best friend had a baby. But like I said, I'm not entitled to anything. The next question is definitely a good one, especially considering what's going on in the world right now, is who's going to be in the delivery room? Now, in a perfect world, if COVID wasn't going on, I would have everybody in the freaking room. Everybody meaning I would have the intended mom, the intended father, and Nick. I would have all of them in the room, Nick being my support person and them too, so that they can see the birth of their child. Now, with COVID going on, it isn't exactly that easy, and to my knowledge, I'm only allowed one person in. I think there are some exceptions, so we'll see once the day happens, but as far as I know, it will only be one person, and I think I would probably have the intended mother be that person. The next question is, what did Nick think? Now, as I mentioned before, I had been thinking about this for years, so this is something that has been brought up quite a few times in our relationship, and each time he's just kind of like, whatever. If that's what you want to do it. It's your body. And I just love that approach because, yeah, it's my freaking body. I can do whatever I want. No, but seriously, I mean, he's always been supportive of pretty much anything I wanted to do. And that was pretty much exactly what he said, though. It's just your body. Do what you want to do. So, yeah. Next question is, what will you tell Elizabeth? As of now, she's still pretty young, so I don't think she would understand even what being pregnant means. I mean, she knows what babies are, so I'll probably tell her that mommy has a baby in her tummy, but that it's not ours, it's somebody else's baby. And I feel like that's probably the extent of what she'll be able to understand. And even then, I don't know if she'll even understand that. She'll just be like, baby. Yeah, baby. But that's kind of it. I don't think she really understands that, like, pregnancy is a thing, you know? So, I mean, as she gets older, if she asks questions, I mean, because like I said, this is a very long process, so she'll probably be close to 3, depending on the timeline, whenever I deliver the child, so we'll see what happens. Next question is, how much contact will we have? And we, meaning me and the intended parents. Now, I personally, as I said before, I consider them like friends of mine, so we talk all the time. I mean, it's mostly just me and the intended mother, but we talk all the time, whether it's just stuff about me asking for advice about like diet stuff, or just saying like Merry Christmas, or just asking like how our week's been, or talking about appointments. Like, we kind of just talk about anything. I mean, I have her on social media, or we have each other on social media, so we talk when we talk. Next question is, how did y'all meet? I don't remember if I touched on this earlier, but we met in a surrogacy group on Facebook. The next question is, do you have to take medication? Now, I briefly touched on this earlier. Yes, I do have to take medication, but it definitely widely varies. Another part of this question was like, for how long, if so? And basically, it definitely just depends. I mean, every clinic has different like protocols or routines on what kind of medications that they do during like IVF. As far as I know, the very typical ones are progesterone, estrogen, and Lupron. But that's kind of just about to my knowledge. And for the most part, those are injections. So I'm gonna have to be poking myself with needles, which I'm very scared about. But Nick will be doing most of them. I might do a couple, and then the intended mother will do some. So we're all good. We are all good. And as for how long, I have no idea. I think that they'll be taking my blood work every like week or 2 or something like that, just to kind of see like what's going on, check my uterus, make sure that everything's okay, and we'll just kind of go from there. The next question is there a risk difference between your own pregnancy and an IVF pregnancy / a surrogacy pregnancy? So basically, I'm not entirely sure if there's like a huge risk difference, but basically with any pregnancy, there's always risks. And I think that these risks are just a little bit more heightened just because it's not necessarily a natural pregnancy. So that's why like for the first like trimester, you're considered high risk and you're still seeing the RE as well as an OBGYN. I'm not too sure exactly on this, but from what I've been seeing is that most people still see a high risk doctor because it is a very risky thing. So yeah, I couldn't tell you the specifics. Maybe once I actually start having the appointments and stuff, then I will be able to further answer these types of questions. The next question is, can either of you back out halfway through? Meaning, can any of us back out while I'm already pregnant? And to my knowledge, no. One of the steps that we will be taking is seeing a lawyer. Each one of us, we will be having our own set of lawyers. And that's just to make sure that both of us are following up on our end of the deal. The next question is something that I feel like if you're trying to become a surrogate, you need to ask yourself this and make sure that you're 100% okay with the answer. And that is, do you think that you'll be attached, like afterwards? Now, I think that there is a difference between being attached and having a bond. I think that I'll probably have a bond with the baby. I think that I would love the baby just as if I would love it if it was just my best friend having a baby. I would love that baby. I love all babies. But as far as being attached, no, I don't think that I would be attached. When I had Elizabeth, I didn't feel an immediate attachment with her. I loved her and I would do anything for her, but I was so sleep deprived and in pain and almost in shock at the fact that I just did that, and I now have to raise a human, like a little bitty human. It just didn't really hit me that I was a mom for a while. So I definitely don't think that I would be attached to this baby. The next question is, would you carry twins? Now, this is a question that even my intended parents asked because that was what they wanted. They wanted twins. And at first I was kind of like, yeah, why not? I guess so. But after thinking about it for a little while, I honestly don't think that I would carry twins. And I've already said this to them, so this isn't like blindsiding them or anything. But I don't think that I would want to carry twins just because, obviously not in all cases, but in most cases, you know, twin pregnancies end in cesareans or in preterm labor. And I would just want to have the safest and smoothest pregnancy as possible. That being said, because they do still, in the end, they want 2 babies. So I will be doing what's called a sibling journey, which is just that once I am fully recovered and healed and whatever, I will carry another baby for them. That will be their sibling. So I will carry 2 babies, just not at the same time. The next question is, was anyone not supportive? And I honestly had to think about this for a little while because I'm fortunate enough that everyone in my life is very supportive. There were people that were kind of just like, really, you want to do that? And like, just shocked, I guess. But it wasn't like a, no, you shouldn't do that. Like my mom and my dad were both kind of like, oh shit, like you really want to do that? And they were confused, but they were 100% on board. My grandma, she's just very old fashioned, and I've even said it in front of her, and I don't think she still even knows what I'm doing. Her English is not very well anyway, so I highly doubt that she even knows what a surrogate is, but I've said it in front of her and haven't gotten a reaction, so I think she's supportive. I think she just doesn't know. The next question is, will they be having a baby shower, and if so, would you be invited? Now I just want to say again, it is not my baby. So whether or not I'm invited, I mean, I don't know. It's not up to me in the first place. As far as them having a baby shower, it's not something that we've discussed already yet. I feel like that's probably something that we'll discuss, you know, once things start progressing. But you know, we're still in the middle of COVID. I couldn't even have a first birthday for Elizabeth, so I feel like the topic of baby showers just isn't really what's on our mind right now. But if they had a baby shower and if they were to invite me, then I would 100% be attending that. Now, again, some of these questions I will be making their own videos for. For example, the one where it says, what is the process? I will be making my own full-length video on that eventually. I would probably wait until I'm at like the transfer time, just because I want to kind of talk to you guys a little bit more about what the screening process is, because it isn't as simple as just being like, hey, I want to be a surrogate. And they're like, okay. It's a very long process and very in-depth. So I definitely want to kind of dive a little bit deeper in that. I've been keeping track of all the different like requirements that they've wanted me to do and all the appointments that I'm going to be having. For example, today is New Year's Eve and I have an appointment this coming Tuesday, which I'm so excited for because it's feeling real. It's really real. but I'm excited and nervous, you know. I have no reason to be nervous, but I am. There will be plenty more surrogate related videos to come, and if you guys have any questions that I wasn't able to answer for you guys, please leave them down below or just message me if you know me personally, and I'd be happy to answer them. So that pretty much wraps it up for this surrogacy Q&A. I just want to thank you guys for staying through this whole, what very well may be an extremely lengthy video. I just really appreciate being able to have such a safe space in which I feel comfortable enough to share my journey. Not only am I doing this to educate you guys, but I'm doing this so that I can have something to look back on one day and show Elizabeth, and you know, it's a big part of my life, and I want to be able to look back on it and kind of remember what I was going through, you know. So I appreciate being able to have this platform to do so, even though it's a very small platform. It's a very itty bitty platform. I just appreciate that I feel comfortable on here enough to talk about it. So before I get all sappy, I just want to say thank you again and enjoy your New Year's. It is New Year's freaking Eve. So I hope you have a very safe New Year's, and stay tuned for my next videos.